Jubilee Day itself, dawning damply, as has so often happened in ceremonial Junes. But it didn't seem to matter. The crowd had been on the pavements all night, muffled in stoicism, exuding goodwill. And finally, the state coach, which we hadn't seen since the coronation, made its appearance through the arch of Buckingham Palace. Something to marvel at, this ornate, rocking, gilded carriage. Surely the most unlikely form of transport ever created, to take a monarch from her palace over a number of miles to her church. As a vehicle to see and be seen in, it certainly beats motor cars, and the crowd warmed to the familiar and yet always fresh processional splendour. A strangely homely touch. On the door pillar of the coach, a posy of lilies of the valley, which dates, I believe, from the days when crowds were not always as well washed and deodorised as they are today. Round the Victoria Memorial went the coach, riding jauntily on its leather suspension and bearing its age well enough, considering it was built in 1761. Its problem, known only to royal passengers, is that its motion after a mile or so tends to create a feeling similar to seasickness. Fortunately, both the Queen and the Duke are quite good sailors. The high point of the day for the crowds was to be the balcony appearance of the Queen and all the royal family. And every single person in these hundreds of thousands had the same idea, to get as close as physically possible to the railings of Buckingham Palace. So the tide flowed down the Mall, engulfed the Victoria Memorial. Here was a great crowd as cheerful as it was single-minded. In the emanation of goodwill, even the pickpockets apparently took half an hour off and raised eyes as innocent and as expectant as the rest. But the crowds had not yet managed to pack themselves into that final ecstatic jam. With the gentlest of control, or you could call it being graceful in the face of the inevitable, the police let them through towards the railings of the palace. And out came the Queen and the Duke to acknowledge the cheers and to acknowledge the contribution of those who were cheering to the triumph of the day. There was something to cheer here, of course, in an age not noted for its cheer-making propensities. But perhaps there was also a kind of yearning for the older, more absolute values. Your Royal Highness, how would you sum up Jubilee year?
It's a difficult thing to sum up, but basically I think it's been a great success, and personally I've enjoyed it enormously. From my own particular point of view, it was quite hard work, starting in April and going flat out through till the end of July. That was the main sort of busy period. But I think it's been a wonderful morale booster for all of us, and I hope for many people in Britain.
But why do you think people responded so well? I mean, quite remarkable response all over the country. Why do you think this was?
Well, because I think that the British, and perhaps it goes for most other people as well, but particularly the British, need a special occasion in which to show their feelings, their true feelings. And although the feelings may be hidden 9 times out of 10, on this particular occasion, there was an ideal opportunity to show what they really felt. And I think the great thing were all these street parties and so on, which perhaps for the first time for 25 years, people were actually talking to each other. They hadn't done since the coronation. And it all brought the community together, and I think made people feel part of a sort of a nation for a change.
What is the reaction on things like money when you're actually drumming up the funds? I mean, do you find that people respond, or are they critical?
No, on the whole, people have been marvellous. As far as the Jubilee Appeal is concerned, it's been an outstanding success, I think. I mean, it's raised now something in the region of £12 million, which is not bad. And a lot of people have sent donations to me. I've had 29,000 individual donations sent to me, which is also very encouraging.
Now, it's been an enormously hard year for the Queen, a year without precedent, and she seems to have coped with it very well, but there must have been times when she was very, very tired, I should think.
I think it was the end of the whole thing. The Queen felt particularly tired. But then the marvellous thing was the reaction and response to the Jubilee, and to the Queen. And the thing that I thought was marvellous was in the streets on the way to St. Paul's, the Thanksgiving service, the sign saying, "Queen rules, UK OK," things like that. And I mean, it was a great thing. People who say that, there were several letters written to me and to the papers saying that the Queen ought to be given a special award, and a special medal or something. But not at all, because the award and the reward was the response and the affection and the enthusiasm. It was the greatest morale booster, I think.